Hey guys, what's up? Madseason here, and welcome to my big gold guide. People have been asking how I got all my gold, so I've been planning this series for quite a while. This is part 1 of the series where I cover all of the major groundwork. The series will mainly be centered around having a lot of alts and maximizing their full potential. If you end up using this guide, you might find my various power leveling guides useful in this regard. I'll have some links in the description if you're curious. For part 1 specifically, we're going to go over optimizing alts and setting up your Garrison followers for lucrative missions. I'm going to start off with some background information, and I'll explain some basic things that may seem to be common knowledge to most people. If you know all the basic stuff already, I'll have an annotation pop up right now that skips to the nitty-gritty of this guide. There are hundreds of ways to make gold in this game. One of the best ones is playing the auction house, but I'm going to avoid that in this series for a few reasons. For one, there's already a crazy amount of those types of videos out already made by people who are way more talented than me, so I don't really feel a need to add another one to the pile, so to speak. If you're curious about that though, just search TSM or Trade Skill Master with no spaces on YouTube, and you'll get hundreds of videos explaining how to use that add-on and how to make gold on the auction house. Second is, I barely made any of my gold by playing the auction house. I'd say 99% of my gold I've made just from garrisons, farming items, and crafting stuff, etc. with all the alts I've leveled. Because of this, I'm more inclined to make a guide on the way that I made gold. That's not to say that either method is superior, it just comes down to personal preference and how you like playing the game, and in my case, I chose the alt approach. Just to give you a little background information, here's some of the gold I have. I have around 3.5 million laying around on my characters in just straight up gold, and I have another 1 million lying around in a couple of guild banks. I also have another 5.5 to 6 million in rare items such as trading card game loot stashed away as well. One of the things that I'll go over in another part is that, just like real life, inflation does exist in this game. Get ready because I'm about to get real nerdy here in a couple of seconds. So, when you start building up a decent pile of gold, you're going to want to invest in some non-volatile and non-liquid assets, or else the real value of your gold will just decrease over time. For example, if you played vanilla World of Warcraft, having 100,000 gold was nearly unheard of. In fact, back in the day, I think the gold cap was somewhere around 200,000, I think. These days, 100,000 is pretty normal for someone who's been playing the expansion since its release. There's a lot of ways to invest your gold to make it retain its value. Like I said, I chose various trading card game items. It's heavily dependent on your server's economy. You could choose worse or better. But like I said, I'll save this subject for another video since I just want to lay down the basics for part 1 of the series. Also, 99% of this is during the Warlords of Draenor Expansion. I think I started this expansion with somewhere around 10,000 gold. Mainly due to garrisons, this expansion has been great for making gold for people that like leveling alts such as myself. Now that we got all of that out of the way, let's get into the main point of part 1. So like I said, this guide will have a heavy focus on alts. You have some choices on what class to level. Most people go for one of each class so they can play whatever they want if they get bored of their main character. There are 11 classes and each server has 11 character slots. If you want to maximize gold, however, you want to make as many Death Knights as possible due to a few reasons. For starters, they start at level 55. Being able to skip all of the vanilla content gives you a huge head start, obviously. Second is that they're easy to play. All 3 specs are great for leveling. If you're blood, you should get instant queues into dungeons because that's the tank spec. It's really hard to die as a Death Knight when you're leveling. If you use this guide, you're going to be leveling a lot, so anything that makes the whole process easier for you is great. And third and most importantly is the Shadowmourne questline. The Death Knight is one of the 3 classes that can complete the legendary Wrath of the Lich King questline to get the 2-handed axe Shadowmourne. The other 2 classes being Warrior and Paladin. The legendary itself isn't really important, but at the end of the questline you get 5 bind on equip items that are really rare and they sell for a lot on the auction house. The 5 items you get are the Reins of the Crimson Death Charger, Muradin's Favor, Jaina's Locket, the Tabard of the Lightbringer, and Sylvanas' Lockbox. At the time this video was made on my server, if you're patient, the music box sells for around 15 to 20,000. The Mount and Tabard both sell for around 50,000 each, and Muradin's Favor and Jaina's Locket both sell for around 12,000 to 15,000 each. So in total, per Death Knight will net you around 150,000 gold, give or take. Obviously this is heavily dependent on your server's economy and when you're watching this video. The quest itself is easy, but one part of it will require another player to complete, due to the mechanics of the boss fight. If you decide to go down the Death Knight route, I'll eventually make a complete guide for the whole Shadowmourne questline, so check the description of this video if you end up having trouble with it. So if your goal is just to make gold, I highly recommend spamming Death Knights because they have so many bonuses going for them. Now another thing to keep in mind is that most servers in the game have at least one partner server. A while ago Blizzard sort of merged a bunch of servers into pairs due to a decline in the player base. For me, I'm on the Khadgar server and we're partnered with Illyria. I'll have an annotation right here and a link in the description that shows all of the servers and who they're partnered with if you don't know yours. The reason I'm bringing this up is that you can fully interact with your partner server. That is grouping, trading, mailing, auctions, everything. So this is essentially 11 more character slots that you can have per partnered server if you manage to fill up your home server. So the route I personally took is I made one of each class on my home server, Khadgar, and on Illyria I just have all Death Knights solely for the sake of making gold. Some servers are actually in groups of 6, so you can see how crazy it can actually get. I have no idea if anyone out there wants to make 66 level 100 characters, but hey, it is possible. So now that you have all of your characters planned, let's get into the actual gold making. Just one more disclaimer though, I'm about to talk about garrisons here, so if you're looking at this video at a later date, a lot of this information may be outdated. I'll try to remember to put an annotation on right here if this is the case. Typically when Blizzard moves into the next expansion, they'll nerf a lot of stuff from the previous expansion. I have a strong feeling that gold making in garrisons will be severely nerfed when Legion arrives, but we'll see. I also want to talk about an add-on that you should download if you haven't already. It's called Master Plan, you may have heard of it, and it's a garrison mission related add-on. What this one does is it allows you to sort all of your missions and it lets you pick the best possible team for that mission. With all of the counters and traits, trying to pick the best teams for each mission is way too time consuming, especially if you're going to do it on multiple characters. It's pretty much a must-have add-on for Draenor and it's one of my personal favorites. I'll have a link to it in the description of this video. Now obviously when you hit level 100 you get your level 3 garrison, and this is where your alts are going to make a majority of your gold income. There are many different setups you can go for. I'm just going to share what's worked for me and what I hope will work for a long time. This setup is aimed to be future-proof for when Legion comes out so that it still makes a decent amount of gold in case things get nerfed, but you'll see what I mean about that later. First let's talk about missions. I'll assume you know the basics about missions and followers and whatnot, so I won't go over that here, but I'll have a link in the description that goes over followers in detail for those that need it. At your command table you'll get various missions for your garrison followers to do, and the only ones you're interested in are in order: rare missions, rush work order missions, follower upgrade token missions until every follower is maxed out, gold missions, then XP missions if you have a follower that isn't a level 100 purple, and finally garrison resource missions. Rare missions are things like the Coldfist Groundling Mount, Champion's Honor, Medallions of the Legion, and so on. They vary in value and are typically your top priority. This may change when Legion comes out, the prices could rise or fall. I'm sure it will depend on the item. These missions appear randomly on a weekly basis, and as far as I can tell they're account specific, meaning each character doesn't get one. One random character will get one weekly across your entire account. Next we have rush order missions. These will only show up once you have a level 3 profession building. These instantly complete 5 work orders with their respective building. In my setup, I'm using a tailoring building and a jewel crafting building. The tailoring order is more important than the jewel crafting order, so if you have to make a choice between the two, choose tailoring, but try to get them both if possible. Follower upgrade token missions are also pretty important. To be able to get the higher level gold missions, you have to have some followers maxed out with a eye level 675. There will be eye level 615, 630, and 645 upgrade tokens. Obviously the higher the better, but try to grab them as they come along. One thing I highly recommend if you're a fresh level 100 is that you buy a few frozen arms of the hero off the auction house. These increase both the weapon and the armor of a follower by 50 levels, and they're usually pretty cheap. Next are the gold missions. These will be the majority of your missions, and they vary from around 50 gold all the way up to 1000 with the rare Blingtron Secret Vault mission. There are a couple of ways to tweak these. One is to have a level 3 inn, which increases the amount of gold missions you receive at your command table. Another is to get followers with the Treasure Hunter trait. What this trait does is it increases the gold gained from a mission by 100%. It also stacks, so for example, a 3-slot mission that rewards 200 gold. If you have 3 followers with the treasure hunter trait assigned to it, the reward will be 800 gold. You can get the treasure hunter trait from a level 2 inn, which I'll discuss further in part 2 of this guide. All of this gold from these missions will be a good chunk of your gold earned for each haul. As you can see here, the Master Plan add-on actually keeps track of how much gold you've obtained from gold missions on each character. This was recently added though, so this probably isn't even half of the actual mission gold that I got for each character. Next in priority are XP missions. Obviously, the higher level a follower is, the higher chance he or she will have on your missions. There's sort of a way to power level your followers if you want to speed it up a bit by using Harrison Jones. I'll have a link to that in the description if you're curious. And finally, we have Garrison resource missions. To do all of these missions, you need Garrison resources. Since you won't be leaving the Garrison on any of your characters, your only source for resources will be from the cache outside your town hall and Garrison missions. Just like with the gold and the treasure hunter trait, resource missions can also be buffed with the scavenger trait. It's 100% just like the treasure hunter, so a 3-slot 100 resource mission will yield 400 resources with 3 scavengers on it. Like I said, you'll be using these resources to start your Garrison missions, but you'll also need them for the trading post, which I'll talk about later. When you're doing these missions, make sure you have the Master Plan add-on installed, and you can click the top left drop-down menu to sort them by treasure, XP, and so on. Right-click the percentage and the rewards you want for each mission, then click Send Tentative Parties at the top of the screen. As I said, Master Plan just makes this so much easier to do, so I highly recommend you pick it up. When your Garrison is complete with a level 3 barracks, you'll have 25 active follower slots available, with 2 of those working buildings. This leaves 23 followers to split up with the treasure hunter and the scavenger traits. For me personally, I go with 18 treasure hunters and 5 scavengers. This is because you get way more gold missions than you do resource missions. It is possible to get both treasure hunter and scavenger on one follower, but it's really rare. So every week you're going to want to visit your inn and you keep recruiting until you have 17 treasure hunters and 5 scavengers, or whatever ratio you decide to go with. If you go above the follower limit, just find a follower without treasure hunter nor scavenger and disable them. I check for missions once a day. It usually takes around 20 hours or so to get a fresh batch, but you can check them twice a day if you want. It might be a good idea if you're just starting out because most of your followers will need the XP. In terms of gold though, there's not a crazy benefit to checking them more than once a day. You may make an extra 100 to 200 gold per character or so, but it's nothing huge. So that's all there is to say about the missions. I'll catch you in part 2 where we'll talk about the Garrison building setup and crafting. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, thanks for watching, good luck, and peace!